Sure. Okay, back for part 2, punters. The next one is a question from Michael, who's another Axis client. Johnny actually emailed. I think he might be actually a subscriber to your service as well.
Poor bugger. Oh, yeah, I know he is. Yeah, no, he's good. He sends up a lot of information. He's very, very into your program and right into Brisbane racing is mostly, I think, even though this question's on Caulfield, I think it sort of covers everywhere.
He was certainly questioning about Caulfield, and we'll get into that in a sec. But essentially, Michael uses what we call an advanced version of Axis, which is an old version that we used to support, which is a watered down version.
Okay.
We've phased that out, and obviously he's doing a lot of manual work that he would otherwise avoid if he was running the normal professional version. So we'll talk about that. Essentially, Michael's saying that what he does is he's looking to back horses only out of fast run races. And he's saying here, I was in a hole at the beginning of the spring and backing the wrong horses. I reviewed what I was doing and started looking at fast run races and the horses that came out of them. And he's talking about overall time.
This is quite interesting.
Okay. I've given the runs of the 14th and the 10th at Caulfield as an example. Now, what Michael did was he sent me all his workings where he basically cut out the fields out of the newspaper, stuck on a piece of A4 paper, reminiscent of Gary Clark. I saw Gary on Saturday with bits of paper and so forth there, and making notes about the par times and what times the races ran, and making observations whether they were fast or slow, and doing some video comments by hand. So it's quite labour intensive.
Bonus on to the horse in my assessment module.
Yeah, so
he goes through the run, he goes through the times, and then allocates 3 to 7 point bonus. Okay.
So basically he does that, and then he sent me that information, and he uses a chart of some old par times that he got from a mob called Horse Talk that did some sort of
I remember those.
A document many years ago with some par times in it, and he asked me to have a look at those, and I sort of compared them against ours, and there's some pretty wild differences. Some of them aren't too bad, but some of them are dramatic.
Well, how can you be? You can't be correct.
So anyway, the bottom line is that's just times alone, and we'll talk about that as well. But essentially, what he's trying to do is bonus up those horses that come out of fast run races with the view to getting on them at their next start, if you like, in terms of a rating sense. Making their rating higher as a result of the fact that they've come out of a better quality race or a fast run race than they have.
Well, that's the difference. So it's two ways. So what's a fast run race? A fast run overall race or a fast tempo race?
He's talking over fast speed.
Fast speed overall.
Go to 100. Fast pace, fast speed.
Yeah, okay, that's different.
Overall speed is good. In terms of the time.
Okay.
So times that are effectively run faster than par time, which you can call a standard time or a benchmark time or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so he does that, and essentially what he's asking is there a set of par times in Axis that would be more accurate than the ones I'm using? Yes, there is. We express it in the context of a base figure. That base figure is essentially the par time expressed as a ratings number, which is essentially what you're looking to achieve on average. And then we also have another column, John, you've talked about it a lot in your videos, is called RLD, or relative length difference, and it's like a race quality type figure. It shows you how many lengths above or below that par that race went. As a guide. Obviously you need to take into account pace and the context of how that influences the overall time as well.
Bias things you've got to look at. So there's it's not a straight up layup, but it's pretty close. And
anyway, the bottom line is this, Michael, you're doing a lot of manual work, and that's fine, and I take my hat off to you that you're having a crack, but you could solve all of that just by simply looking at the one number to get the answer to what you're looking for, and as we discussed yesterday,
you can spend your time interrogating the race rather than trying to come up with a number, which is the reason why I sort of subscribe to it.
He would have spent, I imagine, a fair bit of time trying to do all this. And of course the problem with the overall time, it doesn't matter if it's accurate or it's not. Even if it is accurate, the problem with comparing, say, Caulfield Good Tree Track this Saturday to Good Tree Track next Saturday at Caulfield, even if it is the same distance and the same class and even the same pace conditions, you can't compare them because tracks play differently every day. That's why we have a figure called a track speed figure, or a variant. Some people call it a variant. How you calculate it, of course, can differ greatly, and we do something very unique in that sense. But the bottom line is that if you're not adjusting the track speed or adjusting the times for track speed,
yes,
then you're really wasting your time trying to compare one to the other.
Yeah, it's impossible to replicate. Well, it might happen once every 100 years. They're the same wind, same everything, same temperature, same whatever.
Rail position, moisture, the whole bit. So that answers that question. I think, Michael, you'd be better served, honestly, spending a few more dollars and
I come to a sort of position where I personally sort of subscribed, didn't know a lot about it. I'd done it through other there was another couple of websites that do similar things that weren't too bad, but you've sort of got to go through and check your own, have your own opinion for a while, run it alongside yours, and then get comfortable that eventually I've got to either trust one, if I want to substitute gaining all this time from doing it myself, I have to trust your figure. I was happy to do it, and now you've got to put full trust in what sort of comes along every now and then. It's something you want to question, which is pretty human nature, and I don't think I've found too many situations. But
it's usually explainable by the pace.
Yeah, 100%. That's right. So that's what I want to save time, not calculating all these figures, so that I can spend time on vision and upcoming races. Exactly. So I don't. That's the tiny sacrifice of putting your sort of the figures in your hands or the program's hands. Do you feel that your work has gone ahead as a result? Oh, the time, well, absolutely. I can cover a lot more. I can do other things, whereas I couldn't. There's no way. It was an absolute battle to be able to review meetings on top of do upcoming form. I basically got to a stage where I would have to go back and review meetings as I was doing the form rather than do both.
So, time value, money,
it's
equation, work it out yourself.
To get the first end accurate probably took, out of say 2/3 of a meeting time reviewing, 2/3 of the time was getting the numbers right, and then 1/3 of the time would be reviewing the vision. So that 2/3 is now down to 1/3. So it takes 1/3 of the time to review a meeting if I did it by myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good value there. Next question's from Noel. Do you have any thoughts on the Blue Diamond from a futures betting perspective? Noel, John will probably talk more about this one, but my point of view is that I don't entertain futures bets, all-in bets. I've been burnt by them before.
Especially 2-year-olds, they're just nasty. Unless you're getting 50, 100 to 1 things.
Markets can change so quickly.
And they just can get turned out. It's just so hard to keep a 2-year-old up for a long preparation, let alone try and find the best one that's going to peak on the day. I do a lot of futures betting, not as much as I used to probably, but 2-year-old betting is an absolute nightmare. I haven't even had a crack at the Blue Diamond, but I've had 2 bets in the slipper, and one's 50s and one's 100s. I anything down towards the bottom. I saw a bet the other day, 5,000 on Performer at $8 after it won. I can't. There's no possible explanation for having that bet. They run it next Saturday, and it's all the horses show up, and that it's probably $6, $7, $8 anyway. And now we're talking 5-6 weeks away. It's crazy for mine. You want extreme value in 2-year-old future betting.
You have to really get lucky, I think.
That's part of it, because you've got to be lucky to show up. This 6 weeks in 2-year-old language for is a long time. They can change everything. It takes them 5 minutes to go shin sore, and they in and out. It's just it's a time bomb territory. The old futures betting.
I was cured many years ago. I think we might have talked about it before, the Maldivian Caulfield Cup.
That was me. I was in that too. Beautiful.
Yeah, so that was it for me.
No, that's it. If you get it there race day, everything's fine. The horse is 6-4 at Rares and hits a camera box, and you're out of business. There's plenty of ways to go unstuck. Exactly. That's right. So
and the point is, you lose your money. So that's the problem. It's all out.
There was a race last week, where I'd rather use it, where you kind of. What was it? The 3-year-old, the thing that Trapeze Artists won, the Expressway Stakes. There was a strange favourite and a number of horses in betting that just were no chance of going there. They're the sort of ones I'm more likely to play into. I think they were bet at $5, $6. Addictive Nature had started 6-4. They bet $5 or $6 to win. It started 5-2. If you can identify those sort of things early in the week, you're a much better chance either playing into futures markets than trying to identify 2-year-olds 3 months out.
So Noel, good luck if you're.
I can't even help you. I haven't even really got into. I think that the horse that ran on Saturday, if it goes there, Stratosphere, it'll probably just about win, I'd say. If the other Sydney horse that's run called Estajab from the Hawk stable went down there, it'd be a nightmare to beat. I haven't seen too many Melbourne 2-year-olds look too scary compared to a few Sydney ones if they went down there. So that's all I could add.
Righto. Okay, so a bit of a change in pace here. I attended the races in Sydney last week, both on Friday night at Canonbury and Rosehill Saturday. It's the first time I've been back on track on any race course since the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, and it was a bit of an experience, John.
Yeah, so I was interested to hear you telling me that you're thinking of doing it just from a plain betting perspective, like getting down there and wanting to get amongst it rather than being sort of hamstrung from your home. And I was interested to, we haven't even talked about it really, sort of how you got along, not as in your results, but how you found it different to being at home, and whether it was worth, giving up a little bit of control by being able to see a lot more of different markets, even though you've got tools that you can use on track still, laptops and things like that, whether you felt like you were hamstrung a bit or it actually freed you up to more opportunities.
Well, first of all, I'll just discuss briefly the reasons. You might be interested or you may not be, it's up to you, but essentially from a social aspect, we sit in front of our computer screens a good 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's an incredible workload. It's an incredibly recluse life that we take on.
Absolutely.
As punters, people seem to think it's glamorous. It's not, as you'd all know, who do it seriously. And it was a matter of, and it was actually my wife that said it, you need to get out and spend some time. Why don't you look at going to the track? And so obviously I thought about it and weighed up the pros and cons, and one of the driving forces was to actually get back and have some sort of social interaction with humans. Once
humans, like-minded humans that are good fun to spend time with too. Exactly. And you can gain information from them as well a lot of the time, not as in suck them for information, but sharing.
It becomes a sharing of
knowledge
of like minds, if you like, and it was good from that point of view. So that was certainly, I found it a bit surreal at first, and there was a few little things I need to iron out in terms of logistics and so forth. But look, overall the experience was profitable, and I came away winning, which was always
makes it easy to go back.
Makes it a bit easier to go back.
Yeah.
So it was certainly tiring.
Difference in prices and things like that.
Big difference in prices. I've tweeted a few of those, and quite a big difference in some of the prices that the ring offers. The issue now is that the NAP is, as you know, structured from the corporate's prices.
Yes.
And I think it's 6 of, if there's 9 of them, say 6 or more have to be that price or
for a certain amount of time, at a certain amount of time,
whatever it's might be.
Yeah.
The issue is that they're corporate's prices. So you're on track, you get obviously the NAP on one screen, and you get the ATC fluctuations on another screen from the bookmakers on track. And then of course there's the
actual. I haven't seen that. So
there's the competitive betting, so you see 2 different sets of fluctuations.
Yep.
And there's some significant premiums to be had, even at top fluck, of prices in the ring. And I'm not just talking about one board.
Yes.
I'm talking about like a good example a few weeks ago was D'Argento, $2 I think 20 out to 240 top fluck NOP, 3 boards 270. So that's if you're betting and you're having a reasonable bet, that makes a big difference.
Adds up quick.
That pays for the expenses, and 10 or 20 cents dividend difference over a year can make a massive
especially in a
difference.
horse down there. Yeah, absolutely.
So the other reasons for going was the Interactive Gaming Amendment Act of 2017, which is basically the new legislation that prohibits online bookmakers from offering credit if their turnover exceeds $30 million or more annually. So essentially we used to hold cash in, when I say we, myself and my partners, we held cash in Tats, Tabcorp and Betfair. And
because you had to.
We had to.
Yeah, that's it.
And that was a fair bit of money across those 3 accounts. And the rest of the accounts, and it was about another dozen, I had credit. Like many players, and in fact right back to the Darwin All Sports days when I was a client of Mark Reed's. We'd bet credit, we settled weekly, it was just the norm. If you did it on course, it was the norm on course too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You settled once a week when you went to the track.
They prefer it that way. They didn't want cash, they didn't want to hold cash, exactly, as long as you were sort of had a bit of a relationship, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So suddenly, with the introduction of this new legislation, it meant that I would have to probably carry around about 300,000 plus or so in accounts, sitting in corporate bookmakers' accounts, just waiting to have a bet, if you like, because you can't obviously be topping up your account as you try to take a price. It's almost impossible. So that created a logistical issue and one that made going to the track more attractive, because on-course bookmakers can still offer credit, providing their turnover doesn't exceed 30 million, and there may be one or two that I can think of that could be affected, but the majority of them
they're not turning over $1 million a week, no.
Exactly. So the bottom line is that that was one of the driving decisions, the logistics of that. Two, the prices that are being offered, and the third thing, and I see this as a positive over the medium term at least, and possibly the longer term, is that there is I think a good chance that a lot of the money that is bet or was bet through online bookmakers on credit, a portion of that could easily find its way back to the track. Because you think about, if you're talking about the bigger players like Kingsley or whatever, how much cash are they going to have to hold in these accounts? So you know from yourself that it's affecting you, so how is it not affecting them? And there's plenty of players that are in between you and them and below you and that are going to be affected. In their situation, it would be probably 7 figures maybe. So the reality is that might be fine and they might continue to trade off course. But the beauty about being on course is that
you've got options.
You've got options. So you see two things present themselves. You see a lag in the NAP, either on a horse that's going off. So, for example, Addictive Nature, which is one of the horses I fell into Saturday.
Yeah, me too.
I took $3 on course. I took that price when the corporates were already into about 280, 270.
Yes.
So it had crunched on the corporates.
So you got the advantage of knowing that the stream of money's arrived that you're looking for or whatever to back it up that you want to bet, and you're still getting a premium price.
Fresh, and I'm getting the right price, and I still probably had about 90 seconds to maybe a minute to 90 seconds to get those prices before the ring aligned itself.
Yes.
With the corporate,
because they still are behind
came to about
the digital pricing.
So there's that situation. Then there's the flip side of a horse that's going out in betting on the NAP.
Yes.
That gets to a better price before it firms up, either on track or on track.
Or you've got a bench exactly, so you can see whoever heads and things betting things in the ring themselves. Firming a horse, I mean. So you got the opposite. You got the best of both.
The situation there at Canonbury on Friday night was, I think it was the second race, the Condor was the favourite, short price favourite.
Yes.
I backed the Waller horse. Asterius.
One of them. Yeah, I think they're in second. Yep.
Okay, I can't remember what I said on Twitter today, but it might have been 380 or something top fluck or whatever it was, 360, 380, and I took 420 in the ring.
Yeah.
So there's the other option is that, and the corporates weren't those prices from memory. There's some great
plenty of upside to being there. There's no doubt about that. So
you're getting the benefit of the insight of what's happening in the ring. You're seeing, the big players flex their armour in terms of what they want to back. There's a lot of information to be gleaned. Obviously, if you're a yard watcher,
mounting yard stuff,
you can, or if you get Glenn Pollitt's service through Racing Rant, he's a good yard watcher, and you can sort of mesh that information
quickly. Yeah, that's right. You don't have to wait for it to be delivered or whatever.
You've got Betfair, you've got the corporates in front of you, and you've got the ring. And in Sydney, we're talking about on a Saturday about 9 rails bookmakers and maybe 4 on the hour.
Yeah, there's definitely enough.
And they're going to bet you to win 5,000. That was the other reason to go, is an opportunity to build turnover. Because for me to back something to win, let's just say I like a horse and I want to back something to win, say 40, 50. I can do that in the ring. I'd had trouble doing it on the corporates.
Massive trouble. Unless you're happy to average your price down, right down, and
which can be the difference between you winning and losing over the years. So for me, it was a no-brainer. It's not going to suit everyone, but I think
even smaller players. That's right. Even if you're not worried about minimum bet laws and things, there's a lot of and like what you're saying. If say you've got a bank of $1,000 to play with, if you've got that 1,000 in your pocket and you go to the racetrack, you've got 13 corporates you can bet with instantly. Otherwise, you're playing the game you're talking about. You put your 1,000 in. Where do you put it? and what price do you take? So it suits big players, small players, information, people seeking more information. You don't get sacrificed by the loss of the digital home work, really, because you can take your laptop there, as you said, you got Betfair, you got access to everything. Whereas 10 years ago, I used to try and go there with a Palm Pilot to use Betfair or something.
We weren't allowed to use Betfair.
Yeah, that's right. You used to have to hide it. That's right.
I used to go on course in Brisbane, and the stewards would inspect my computer at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh wow!
And at the end of the meeting to see whether I had Betfair installed.
Oh god!
And it got to the point where I could use my computer, but I couldn't use the power.
Yeah, that's right. So that's gone, come and gone. So there's plenty of reason.
Brisbane racing's finished. If you want to have a bet in Brisbane, go and play marbles or do something else, because you can get on the 500.
Yeah, hopefully they're working slowly too. I know they've got a lot of issues to sort of get through before they get to the betting side of things, but hopefully they get there, because it's a bit of a struggle at the moment. But if I lived in Sydney, I'd be with you. There's no doubt. I'd be at every meeting.
I live in Brisbane, as you know, and I fly to Sydney, stay in a hotel room. It might cost me, maybe $1,000 a week in X's between,
flights, accommodation,
a bit of food and whatnot.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I'm still saying it's worth it. I think there's an opportunity to get more people back to the track. I'd love to see more people back on track in terms of training.
Yeah, I love it. Eventually more bookmakers, more everything, yeah.
But there would have been, I reckon, 150 in the ring on Friday night at Canonbury. Maybe I wasn't counting, but, I actually had to dodge and weave.
Yeah, that's right. It's not a ghost town that it sort of did become for quite a while. It's building slowly, if anything. It doesn't seem to be, the regression seems to have stopped.
Well, I hope so. I really
me too, because it's like, there's nothing better for me. Country meeting's even better when you get there and there's 20 and 30 bookies, than being amongst the whole thing, taking it all in, having, your ability to see the horses, see who's betting. Like, I still remember that one of the greatest things that ever happened to me was watching Bart Cummings sit at the back of the ring and nod and watch his blokes run in and back a horse, and like you're trying to run to the far end that they're not at to take the prize. Like things like that are, memories and good fun. Obviously the horse won, which improves the memory, but it's, it's things that you just don't get from home, and interacting with incredibly, weird and wonderful people.
That's right.
Is a good part of it.
You've got a great diversity in the talent.
Yeah.
And the personalities and
it's
so
funny,
forth.
even you meet people who, like, say, form students. I met a couple recently that are, quite well-regarded form students, but basically never stepped foot on a racetrack. And it's quite interesting to hear them talk about racing, and it's really sterile and numbers and this and that. It's just they're missing so much from my point of view of not being able to interact, and whether it be through horse ownership, whatever. There's plenty of ways to interact with race. I feel about it different, like passionately, because of all the experiences I've had on track more than betting from home. It's quite an interesting place to get involved in, and it's definitely, if the way it was going, that no one's going to the track was pretty depressing, really, for someone like me, because you go there and, say 10, 15 years ago, the same people are in the same spots every week. And now you go back, maybe 70% of those people are missing, and you do miss those sort of relationships you had with people.
It's closer for you to jump on a plane than it is for me. I'm in Brisbane.
It is, but I've got to send a lot more information out and do all these sort of things that you don't have to do.
But you can use it to technology. I mean, the power is there. You can bring your computers. You can have all that there.
Yeah, it's just hours of the day for me. But I still do get down there quite a bit, but just not as much as I'd like. I definitely would prefer to be there every week.
So I'm saying to everyone, get to the track if you can. Get back there. There are some great opportunities, and let's try and get this thing, back to some sort of a pale shadow of its former self. Yeah,
anyone who's whinging about not being able to get on, I'm one of those people. It's mythological whereby you're there. It's there. You've just got to do a little bit more work to get there.
Indeed. Okay, so we're going to have a chat now about a couple of races from Rose Hill Saturday. We'll talk about the two-year-old races and the Expressway. John, the 2-year-olds, a big difference in time. There was about, between Performer and Fiesta, in terms of overall time, there was about 4 lengths difference on the verified figures that I've got here now. Obviously impacted by pace.
Heavily, obviously, yeah.
Heavily impacted by pace. What are your thoughts on, first of all, Fiesta?
Well, what scares me, as just looking at these, obviously these not your full-on verified. Oh, you've got them. You've got them. Well, no, I'm not that smart. There's not that much difference actually. A little bit.
A little bit more on the overall time, and certainly in terms of.
It's similar as in pace-wise, so that actually makes it worse. So for what I'm looking at here, Paul's basically, they've gone about average the 600 metres and then slowed down marginally for the fillies race and run quite slow time. So an even tempo with a slow time, whereas the colts have gone extremely slow. Like, what are we talking, 18 lengths, 3 seconds slow to the 600 metre mark, and then sprinted home quite hard off that. So they've gone really slow and sprinted hard. There's a bit of merit, there's a lot of merit in the last couple of sections there.
There's some massive performances in terms of performers' last 400, 200 figures.
Yeah, what about Stratosphere's last 1 inch where it could stick its fat nose out to win me a friggin' house? But no, where I'm getting to is I'd be very wary of the fillies race because they've sort of run it at even tempo and slowed down marginally, whereas the colts have sprinted hard off a really slow tempo. I'd be ignoring the overall time there from a form perspective and hoping that all the corporates and these sort of people think that was a poor race because of the overall time. And I'd be pretty harsh on the colts.
If you look at the winners, first last sectional, not a leader, last sectional.
Yeah.
Couldn't run time in either one of those sectionals.
That's it. And I found a bit of trouble, whereas the other things, not marginally. There's huge upside in being negative towards the fillies for mine. The only horse in the race, and this is again with a bit of parade help too, was the second horse.
Stratosphere?
No, in the fillies
race.
Annalena or something like that.
Annamina? The Gerald
Ryan horse, here we go. Adamina.
Yep.
She was the only one that paraded, from what I was told, with significant improvement. I think, he'd thrown the box and dice at Fiesta, he'd put the blinkers on it first up, given it a couple of decent hit-outs in trials, and I think that was her grand final. She'll probably go on to better races, there's no doubt, but I'd be probably happy to risk her, whereas the second horse is the only horse out of that race that I'm probably looking to forgive and be lenient to.
So speed rating students will have Fiesta as the better performance in terms of overall time?
Correct.
I'm saying, I agree with John. For me, I still have Performer as the benchmark 2-year-old this season.
Yes.
As being the fastest, not only the best performance overall. I have it eclipsing what F Troop did in Brisbane before it went to the Gold Coast.
Okay.
By about, from memory, I think it's about 2 lengths from memory. It might be a bit less than that, but that's a rough number. And I'm saying that Performer on Saturday has more upside, and even on those 2 performances, whilst the times don't indicate it, I'm saying that Performer was probably roughly around a 2-length better performance than Fiesta overall.
Yeah, which is very difficult to line up, and a lot of personal opinion, but where there is huge upside in the marketplace, because these slow times seem to be hammered by these big syndicates, which are such big influences on the market overall, especially closer to race time. If you can find horses in slow run races that run slow times overall, but you can find significant hidden merit, there's plenty of upside. So this 2-year-old should be. I don't think anyone's, because it's not too difficult to work out.
The futures market says it all. Performers, I think $8.
$8, yeah.
Fiesta's 16 to 1.
Yeah, but still, funnily, Stratosphere is 25s. So it's obviously having its first run in a race, and pretty much gone with. Yeah, well, except by a poor little red-headed wombat that just unloaded on it.
On track, there was no money for it. So
that's only because I wasn't on track.
And there was no money on it. Had you been there, you would have been the
I would have been the bunny. But you're 100% right. And obviously, but that to me says also that there's significant improvement in the horse because of the way he's performed. He's obviously had a picnic in front, but if you watch the horse, he only basically changed his stride with about 3 to go, and I don't think Performer was charging through the line, but I don't think it was stopping, and I really do think that Stratosphere was finding another gear. So I'd be taking it far more seriously than the market is in the big races ahead, whatever its target is. And because Performer is the benchmark as well, I think you're on the mark there too. Well, it is the benchmark, I think, from Sydney 2-year-olds, and I think that goes sort of overall. Even like the Magic Millions was pretty dicey, wasn't it, the race quality?
The overall time, I mean, they ran fast time in terms of the clock, and certainly Sunlight, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Dominant win,
and but the figures are impacted by 2 things. One is that it's a feature meeting being run on that provincial circuit.
Yep.
So when you're talking about averages, you've got to put it in the context of what it would be as a metropolitan race.
Yes. So if you put it against Gold Coast par times, it'd probably look outrageously quick.
Well, no, it actually didn't.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Well, when I say the par, I'm now talking the open age par.
Yeah, okay.
So it was maybe 4 or 5 or 6 lengths below the
it was. I just had a quick look at it just to see what it measured up as, because there were some
which is still not a
strange
bad performance
horses
for a 2-year-old.
Yeah, that's
against that figure.
Yeah, and Sunlight's are just that sort of horse that he looks like he's just going to always ping into a spot and be hard to beat in whatever he runs in. But anyway,
well, that race was also marred because of
all that interference.
F-Troops interference and took out the back half.
Took out 12% of the market in one foul swoop, and plus he wouldn't have helped himself, I wouldn't imagine.
So we don't know. Yeah, we don't know what he might have rated. Anyway, so the other race we're going to talk about is the Expressway Trapeze Artist race. Now, I handled this poorly. I backed Addictive Nature. I should have actually backed Trapeze Artist as well. I didn't. After the race, I'm looking and kicking myself. Now, the market came for Addictive Nature, as we talked about. They came late for Trapeze Artist on track as well. Trapeze Artist is a horse that dominates when it gets speed on in front. So its true time ability, or its true ability, is always rises to the top when the pressure's on. Now, interesting point is that,
which is not usual in a weight for age race either. It was only the makeup of this race was a bit funny because of memes, maybe. Like not a genuine this time of year weight for age race is normally a trot and canter.
Well, it's funny that the computer model in Access, for all to see before the race, suggested that the pace would be fast.
Okay.
And yet I sort of outsmarted myself there and said, "Oh, no, hang on, we're dealing with memes."
Yeah.
But now, as it turned out, memes saddle slipped
and it bolted, half bolted.
Half bolted. But what it did, though, it still allowed Trapeze Artist to do what it did. But the fact that it sat outside lead on a hot speed and did what it did first
up, off one trial.
This horse can go on this prep.
He's such a punishing horse.
But you've got to get the conditions right. You've got to have that speed on. If the speed's not there,
no,
it just doesn't produce.
We Tim Clark, who I obviously look after, he won the Black Opal on it, and then sort of had the pick of the ride. He rode it. I think he couldn't ride it first up for whatever reason. Second up, he got back on it, and it was a bit plain when they took the blinkers off the horse. And then he sort of had a decision whereby he was looking at getting some support from another stable, or could have gone Trapeze Artist's way. And Gerald was quite bullish about his chances in the race, the Golden Rose, whatever. He also had the 6-4 favourite. But, it was amazing how well that horse nearly sat wide off a fast tempo and sprinted off it. Same thing happened in the Black Opal, as you're saying. And he's just such a hard horse to gauge because he doesn't look like he's ever doing anything impressive, but you look at the page and he is.
G. Ryan, I'm saying, next start we can probably back this horse again in the right setup.
Well, yeah, they're still trying to toss up which way he goes, but he's obviously a different horse with the blinkers, number one, and he's a different horse in a fast run race because, as you said, it's a funny weight for age race. I was similarly I bet up on Addictive Nature and sort of made Trapeze Artist a small winner early in the week at the bigger odds, because I thought they were the only two horses that would be, one, ready to go, and two, progressive. Yep. I just thought Global Glamour was the weak link when she was 2-1 favourite, which I think most people worked out, and it sort of got out quite late in betting.
It was friendless.
Which I couldn't. I still can't understand. The only thing you could say is that at weight for age, she was very well treated in handicap sense compared to a horse like Addictive Nature, but. To me, it just didn't mean anything in this race. The weights go. It was just all about how the race was going to be run, and I didn't expect them to set. I thought they'd strangle me.
I didn't think they'd go that hard.
No, but you sort of run it again. You say, well, if they went slower, he probably puts the pressure on a little bit earlier anyway, makes it the same sort of test, and he still wins. I can't see how they would have beaten Trapeze Artist and. Ace High went enormous.
Addictive Nature, I don't think, had the absolute best.
No, it
looked like it was being niggled on the inside.
It's a momentum horse. I don't think it's a third defence horse. I agree with you. If he'd had to swap spots with Trapeze Artist, I think it probably wins.
Yeah, or even Global Glamour.
Yeah. But if Trapeze is third defence and Addictive's outside leader, I think it probably wins. You know what I mean? Because Trapeze can't build its momentum, and it's a momentum horse as well. You sort of had the same horse in two different spots. If it draws one, it might get beat, but. Yeah, the point of the story is I think it's actually quite a strong form race.
Well, overall time, they went the fastest race of the day, both in terms of overall speed and also relative speed. So they went 3.6 lengths above what you'd expect for a Group 2 weight for age contest. So that's pretty impressive. The other good performance on the day is probably worth talking about is Don't Give a Damn. Big money for it in the ring.
So this horse is quite interesting, and I got psyched out of it because the horse first up 1300, I heard it had a bit of a paddock issue a few weeks ago whereby it had to miss a bit of work because of a rug getting caught a fence or something like that. It was quite crazy, and I just had that in the back of my mind thinking, well, how good does this horse have to be to resume 1300 first up in the city against these sort of horses? People are talking Chaonic up as the next Kermadec and all these things. I know it mapped well, but it's serious.
There was a pattern on Saturday. I mean, there was.
There was, but it still had to be near the top of its game, I thought, to take care of these horses.
But who was chasing it?
No, nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing, but still it's run time.
It's run time, and this horse has got some ability, and it has been suited in a couple of races, certainly the one at Randwick there on the inside where Kieran...
But that's how it races, you know what I mean? Like, it looks the sort of horse that could... Yeah, he makes his own luck, and he looks to me like the sort of horse, if he had to sit outside leader and get to the middle of the track, he could do it. It's a machine. It's an imposing, horse physically, and it just wins the country championship if that's the way they go. If they want to go to any sort of race.
Second best rating on the day in terms of
overall time.
2.4 lengths above. So I'm saying that's a horse that can be followed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wherever it goes, I assume it goes to a Goulburn qualifier next start. Good luck. Like, I don't know what price it'll be, but good luck beating it. Like, far out, it'll be off and gone. Yeah, anyway.
Right, well that's it for this week. We appreciate if you can send in questions by email. Yep. Email them to myself, paul@thepuntersacademy.com.au. You can send it to paul@ratingstowin.com.au too if you like, but I end up having to forward it then to the other address just so that they're all in the one spot.
Yeah.
If you can get those in early, that'd be great.
Yeah, especially races. Like, I didn't have a chance really to look at the Blue Diamond too much. I don't know when that came through. That was probably more my fault than anything. But if you want to look at those sort of futures betting things, give me a few days at least to sort of do a bit of investigation and asking around, and I might be able to help you with where a horse is going, whether it's planned, because I sort of can tap into that network a little bit more if I've got time rather than just guessing, which is no real help to anyone.
Well, obviously some great racing coming up in Sydney as we move on in the carnival or towards the carnival.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, I know with Timmy, like the interest in Silver Slippers, these sort of races are already up, and then the Golden Slippers are just here so quickly. He'll be there on track.
I was hearing Anthony Cummings talk about Elise in the trial.
Oh yeah, it went like a rocket. Yeah,
possibly a Doncaster too.
Yeah, which is short. Like, that's a great addition to a carnival, having a classy 3-year-old heading towards that sort of race. I reckon these sort of horses, your trapeze artists and those sort of horses could end up in that sort of race. I wouldn't be amazed if a Showtime even that looks a good kick-off for a potential 3-year-olds trying to race in a Doncaster. So should be a great race. I think the whole carnival looks like it's pretty exciting. There's good 2-year-olds, good 3-year-olds. Winks is still around. I think you're riding a first up, which is great to hear.
No.
Oh, sorry.
They're resuming in the
not the Apollo. That's the Chipping Norton, the mile first up.
Mile first up.
Yeah, good luck.
There's a comment I saw on Twitter from Matt Taylor, and he mentioned that it'd be a good idea for Connections to perhaps make it a race at the mile first up.
I don't know. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I'm just winxed out, to tell you the truth, but she's great for us. She's great for the sport. She does a lot for everything. So I hope she comes back in great form and wins her way through the carnival, because that's what everyone wants to see, and bring the numbers back to racing.
Indeed. Okay, you can find me at ratingstowin.com.au. That's our website. My Twitter handle's @PaulDO1. John, you can find at racingwatch.com.au. John, your Twitter handle?
Something like that.
J_W or something.
Just search Armadan and my abuse of him every day. I'm on there somewhere. I'm not hard to track down.
Indeed. We'll catch you next week. Get those questions in, and look forward to seeing you then.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.